Welcome to another edition of Fantasy News. Today we have a whole lot of adaptation and trailer news, finishing off with just a little bit of hardcore fantasy news. But let's go ahead and jump on into it with a shout out before anything else. A new Wheel of Time community channel is starting here on the Dragonmount YouTube channel. They have their first Wheel of Time community episode up. It's fantastic. I'd love to see some of my people hopping over there and showing them some love, giving them some support. It would mean a lot to me. So link to check that out down below, as well as every story I talk about here today in the description right down there. You know how this works. Now, transitioning into the Disney news that I skipped out on in the last time, it turns out Robert Downey Jr. refused to be a part of the Avengers Endgame Oscar campaign. He didn't want the nomination for Best Actor, apparently. And this wouldn't be given to him just based off of Endgame. It would probably be like a cumulative, he's been being Iron Man for 10 years, Oscar award. They do that every now and then. But apparently his response was essentially, let's not. He went over this on the Howard Stern show, and there's more on that in the article linked in the description down below. But this just seems like a very Robert Downey Jr. move to me. He doesn't seem like a guy who cares so much about awards, and Endgame submitted itself to be considered for 11 categories. So I'm sure it'll be fine even without its Best Actor possible nomination for Robert Downey Jr. A trailer for the 4th season of The Expanse has been creating some buzz online. There's a promo available already. I've stayed away from both because I'm still fairly early on in the show and didn't want spoilers, so I can't really talk about this, but I still wanted to include it, so go check it out for yourself, but I can't watch them because I don't want to have a show I'm enjoying spoiled for me. I'm sorry. And in Why, Dear God, Why Disney news, a Inspector Gadget live-action adaptation is apparently being considered. I don't think many people were asking for this one. This franchise had a live-action adaptation with Matthew Broderick before. It's had an animated show, and now it's considering for another one, and Disney seems to be squeezing every possible franchise and property they have for content for Disney+. I get it, I understand the mentality, but I don't think Inspector Gadget is going to be the deal maker or breaker for them here. And in streaming wars news, which inevitably is tied to fantasy news now, it seems that Disney is ramping up the streaming wars significantly, having a ban on Netflix and removing the Amazon Prime app from their app store, a rather drastic move. The article kind of calls this a shot across the bow, but to me this seems like a flat-out shots fired at the person situation. This isn't a warning shot. This directly affects Amazon's bottom line, because if some people can't get that app on their phone, they might cancel their subscription. This is a big deal, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the ramifications of this, and it's also the constant headlines like this is why I haven't made a Streaming Wars episode 2 yet. I need to wait for things to settle down a bit, because it would basically be I'd put out an episode and it would be old news and there'd be new information out the next week. So for the streaming wars, those of you waiting for the next episode, wait a little bit of time. I'm going to wait for the next round of shows to be out and see who kind of clams out on top from there. But there'll be a card to the original streaming wars up right now. And I'm going to defend Marvel news here. Martin Scorsese came out and said that Marvel movies are not cinema. He more just compared them to an amusement park ride. I personally do disagree with this. I think there's been Marvel movies that have had great cinematic impact. They're able to pull emotions. They're able to do all kinds of stuff, tell great story arcs, including the Iron Man arc previously talked about in this episode. And I find this to be just kind of a pretentious, ridiculous statement. But this is coming from someone who is a fan of Scorsese films. I think he makes certainly a different type of cinematic experience with his filmography, but saying that Marvel movies are not cinema is just kind of pretentious nose-turning at this point. I don't think anyone would take this very seriously. It just seems like snobbery to me, but I'd love to hear people who disagree with me in the comments down below try and maybe take a new angle on what he was trying to say here, because to me, claiming they're not cinema, they're not on the same level as certain other things, well, Scorsese has some duds in his past, and so does every director. Just because not everything is most highbrow cinematic experience doesn't mean it's not cinema. But let's go ahead and transition into the adaptation news here. There's a lot of it, and I'm not going to include clips from all the trailers because there would just be like 5 minutes of trailer clips here, and I don't want to do that. But going ahead and jumping into those, we have The Dragon Prince Season 3 is to arrive on Netflix November 22nd. Apple's Isaac Asimov found Foundation series will begin filming this November and plans to finish in June. Star Trek Discovery has dropped a trailer for the next season, declaring it will be 930 years into the future, which I believe we already knew. Outlander Season 5 officially dropped its trailer as well. Lost in Space 2, something, again, I feel like no one was really asking for, dropped a trailer, but it does look pretty good. And hell, at least the special effects look good, so that's neat, I guess. Cowboy Bebop has officially begun filming, and they dropped a little behind-the-scenes promo with a corgi in it, so if you like corgis, there's a corgi in it. Rick and Morty Season 4 had its trailer drop as well.
We got it! Hurry up, Morty, get in!
And that finally wraps up the adaptation news. There was just like a flood of trailers and announcements, and I got to most of them. Some of the ones people posted were just flat out not fantasy news, which I appreciate you guys trying to supply me with content, but I do need to at least restrict it to streaming wars, sci-fi, or fantasy. Having things that are just like, oh, that's a drama, I don't really want to talk about that. This is a fantasy channel, damn it. But if you would like to go ahead and contribute to fantasy news, just join the Discord server in the links down below, hit the fantasy news channel, and go ahead and post links there as well. Or send me on Twitter if you don't use Discord, although I am less likely to see those. And in the what the f news of the day, Wendy's, the fast food chain, has dropped its own tabletop RPG game. It's in a similar vein to Dungeons & Dragons. I have no idea what brought them about to do this, but you better bet your ass that I'm going to check it out because, one, I do like D&D a lot, and I'd love to see what Wendy's, the King Troll fast food Twitter account online, can bring to a tabletop RPG game. So that, you probably get a review for that on my channel at some point. Wolverine is getting his own new comic book run over at Marvel. He has recently been resurrected and off in space with Loki. Now, apparently, he is joining back up with the X-Men. And if you are a comic book fan and a Wolverine fan, this is great news. And if you're one of the two people who's surprised he was resurrected after being killed, welcome to reading comics. Everyone dies, everyone's brought back. It's the cycle of comics. In the boy this caused a lot of fake headlines today news, Magic the Gathering announced a series of My Little Pony cards officially being added to the game, is what a lot of headlines wanted you to think. In actuality, it's a special limited run that's just being put out for a small time and all profits go to charity. It's a charity release. It's not meant to be taken as like a big shift for the series or anything like that. If you're a Magic the Gathering fan, rest easy. No, My Little Pony is not becoming an integral part of the game. I can't believe I have to clarify that, but I saw people outraged online. Really, no. I don't even play Magic the Gathering, and I could call BS on that. And in the final bit of fantasy news we have here today, and arguably the biggest piece of fantasy news, the prequel title has been announced for the upcoming Hunger Games edition, and it is going to be called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This prequel was announced a while ago. I did originally cover it here on Fantasy News. I don't really plan on picking it up and reviewing it, but I will be curious to look out for how the fans do receive this latest edition into the Hunger Games franchise, one of the largest franchises of the last decade, and one that has, I don't want to say changed or shaped YA, but definitely had a massive impact on its general direction for the last few years. And in a quick fantasy news last minute insert here, Joker has broken the record for any October release for a movie ever, and that's pretty impressive after the controversy where some people were saying to boycott it. I'm not really going to give my deep insights on that. I personally do blame the news outlets who glorify that kind of stuff more than a movie depicting mental illness, but this was a surprise to me, to say the least. I expected a rather large opening for Joker, but certainly not at a October record-shattering with $96 million. Let me know what you think of the Joker release down below. Have you seen it? Did you like it? Would you like to see a review of it here on the channel? Let me know. Anyway, this has been your latest fantasy news. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. And have a good one, y'all. Peace. And of course, I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high-tier Patreons, Mike Goins, Marina Heliers, I think I said that right, Lon Vandador, which is Varnador, Vardador. I'm gonna go with that. And I appreciate you guys immensely. I probably butchered your names, but that's the way it goes here. Sorry, Mike, for missing you a while back. It happens. I'm a human being, and I hope